Hi, my name is Mr. DeHaas. I work for the OSU Extension Office in Lake County, Ohio. I love evergreens, so I want to welcome you to my backyard, and today we're going to talk about evergreens and what's the difference between a pine, a spruce, and a fir. A lot of times people just say, I have pine trees. So hopefully we'll figure out what the difference is between those three. Hope you enjoy our time together. Thanks. Hopefully I won't make you too dizzy walking around my yard. This tree is actually a Canaan fir. A lot of times they grow them as a Christmas tree. It's got a nice green color. And you can see the needles right there. So Canaan fir. And right next to it is a white pine. See how it's kind of droopy? And these white pines are pretty big. It's a white pine and a Canaan fir. So this tree is actually a concolor fir, or a white fir. It's pretty big as well. You can kind of see it's pretty tall up there, all the way up there. It's got kind of a blue-green color. Right next to that is a white pine, right there. And if we walk around this way a little bit, go past the white pine, we can see this is actually a Korean fir. Right here, Korean fir. Pretty needles. Again, this is a pretty tall tree. You can see up to the top. Korean fir. Another tree I have in my yard is a blue spruce. You can see a blue spruce. These are some really tall blue spruce that these other ones are growing under. But right next to this blue spruce is a white fir. Right there is a white fir. And another white pine. So the big question is, how do you tell the difference? Well, we're going to try to figure that out so that you can tell the difference between a pine, a spruce, and a fir. So my wife's going to kill me because I have Christmas trees laid all over the table. So let's kind of look at our different samples here. First of all, let's talk about pines. Pines always come in bundles. So they're in 2 bundles, 3 bundles, or 5 bundles. So it's pretty easy. If we look at this first one, that's actually white pine. And you can count the needles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they have a bundle right there. The second one here, the 2 needle pine that's kind of shorter, is Scotch pine, sometimes called Scots pine. Again, that's in a bundle, but there's only 2. And then there's this real long one. That's Austrian pine. So Austrian has 2 needles in a bundle. Scotch pine, 2 needles in a bundle. And white pine has 5 needles in a bundle. So those are our pines. Next, if we look at our fir trees, we have fir trees. When you actually pull the needle off of the stem, see how it's got that little circle right there? They always come off in a circle. So all of these, the Canaan fir came off in a circle when it came off the stem, as did the Korean, as did the concolor. So these are all fir, concolor, and these are all single needle firs. So concolor has a little longer needle, blue-green. Korean fir is a little shorter needle, and then Canaan has kind of the shortest and thinnest needle. So, when you remove a leaf from the tree of a fir tree, you actually get a circle, both on the needle that you pulled off and on the stem. So then we go to spruce trees. Spruce are a little different because when you pull off the needle off a spruce tree, they kind of rip. They kind of take some of the wood with them. So the first one here, Colorado blue spruce, you can see where we kind of ripped that off. And you can see where some of the stem is left on there. White spruce, which is actually the shortest needle of these 3. It's in the middle. And Norway spruce, but you can see where it leaves that splinter. So, the needles on a spruce will leave a splinter on the needle connected to it. The needles on a fir tree will leave a circle on the needle and on the stem. And the needles on pines are always in bundles. So let's take a look at the full branch now. We have Austrian pine. It's got that really long needle. Remember, that's a 2-needle pine. In the middle, we have white pine, which is kind of soft and fluffy. 5-needle pine. And Scotch pine. And Scotch is a 2-needle pine. Scotch used to be used as a Christmas tree a lot, but it had a lot of problems. And you can see some of those dead needles right there. That was one of the problems they found with Scotch pine, so they really stopped using it. Next we have our fir trees. And firs, remember, are the ones that when you tear off the needle off of the stem, it leaves a circle. So white fir tends to be kind of a long needle, blue-green color. Korean fir is the next one, kind of dark green and real shiny. So Korean fir is another fir. And the last one is Canaan fir, and this is becoming one of the most popular Christmas trees in Ohio, is Canaan fir. So our last group of plants or trees, evergreens, is spruce. We have Colorado blue spruce, which used to be used extensively as a Christmas tree, but that again has some problems, a couple of diseases that it can get, so not used as much. White spruce, which tends to be used a lot in the landscape, not so much as a Christmas tree. And then Norway spruce, which is actually from Norway. And again, the spruce trees, when you pull those needles off, they'll kind of leave that sliver of a stem on the needle. So it's time for a quiz. We're going to take out a piece of paper, put your name on the top, and number 1 to 3. It's not going to be a hard quiz. So have your paper, name on the top, number 1 to 3. Question number 1. Which evergreen has needles bundled together? Is it pine, spruce, or fir? Bundled together. Question number 2. Which evergreen needles rip from the stem, leaving a splinter? Is that a pine, a spruce, or a fir? Question number 3, which evergreen needle, when removed from the stem, leaves a circle? Is that a pine, spruce, or a fir? All right, so let's check your work. Question number 1 was a pine. Needles are in bundles. Spruce, when you pull it from a stem, it'll rip it and it'll leave a little splinter on the end of that needle. And with the fir, leaves a circle, both on the stem and on the needle. So there's your bundles of pine. They're in groups. You can see the needles from a spruce that kind of rip and they leave that little splinter on there. And then the needles from a fir actually come off pretty clean and leave a circle. Thanks for joining us for this topic. We'll see you next time.